Ladies and gentlemen, big hairy news.
Hey, kia ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Big Hairy Chewie will be with us shortly. Hope you're all doing well. Otago anniversary today, technically a public holiday down here. Chewie has gone with his wife to the movies, and he will be joining in when he gets home. So he is not too far away. Big old show for you tonight. We want to have a look at Uncle Winnie's War on Woke and his new conversation from his State of the Nation speech tomorrow. We're going to visit Gary Economics. You guys know we love Gary, and you guys love Gary, and I want to have a look at Gary Economics today, explaining how we can stop the economic collapse from happening from where we are now. So we're going to visit Gary and have I was going to say we have a chat with him. I'm not trying to upsell that. We will have a chat with him, or he will have a chat with us. We will play him chatting, and then we will have a chat about it. Also, a really interesting bit of footage going around the social medias today of a gentleman. I'm not a doxer, and I know that sometimes people say we should never dox, and then all of a sudden people start identifying where people are from and their names. I kind of think it's all the same. So what I'll say is a gentleman who is allegedly a lawyer from the central part of the North Island, just going off on some Palestinian protesters. And I have had some, I don't do much with Twitter normally. I'm not really involved with Twitter very much, but Juliet Moses and I kind of got into it on Twitter today, and I want to go through some of that with you as well. I want to say a huge thanks to Guy J. Guy J was a patron who signed up this week. Appreciate you joining on board. We've got about 7 days left. We were aiming for 100 new patrons, and by the end of this month, that means if we're going to make it, 7 patrons in 7 days, and 7 brides for 7 brothers. Remember, we're all very, very relaxed about this. We don't want anyone to put themselves out. We don't want you to join in on something you can't sustain. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Also, the merch store up and running at the moment. You're more than welcome to jump in there and have a look what's going on. Of course, our new merch, which is the Tax Work Less, Tax Wealth More line. There is plenty of those left. There are a few lines that have a few SKUs that have run out at the moment. Large and extra large of the black black t-shirts. Everything else still seems to be there at the moment. And for your viewing pleasure, let me do this. Some lovely Tax Work Less. That's not right, is it? My camera's reversed. I shouldn't have done that. I'll fix it later. Stickers are out there now as well. Now, as you know, for this month, anyone who's purchased a t-shirt, a hoodie, or any of the sticker packs has been receiving a free We Are the Grassroots sticker. What I will do for the rest of the month, it's another week, is anyone who purchases those will get one of each of these thrown in with them. A Tax Work Less, Tax Wealth More sticker, and a We Are the Grassroots sticker. They'll be put in with any sales of t-shirts, hoodies, and sticker packs for the rest of this month, which is 1 week from now. I think that's all we've got. Chewie will be with us shortly, as I said. Want to welcome to the show to start up with this conversation, Michel Mulipola, otherwise known as Bloody Samoan. Michel, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Welcome. Thank you. Malo Lesoifoa. Thank you very much for having me. You were talking about that person in Waikato that's supposedly a lawyer. I've been mocking the shit out of that guy on socials, and in the sense I have named him. I didn't put up any of his personal info as well as where he works, but that's already out there.
I don't have a problem with people in general doing that sort of thing, but I guess what I do sometimes is the more serious version of doxing we say shouldn't happen. So I just typically happy to look at his picture, look at his imagery. One of the ironies, and I won't show it, is that if he is a lawyer, I had the law firm up on my thing. They specialize in something like relationship building or something, which I thought was kind of ironic. Once we show you the video, that's one of, if that is his firm, one of the specialties in there as well. So, yeah, it's
So
it's
no,
shocking.
I've been having a lot of fun mocking the shit out of that guy, especially with his dribbling. And this isn't the first time. Apparently, there's the video of him in 2023 in the same shirt, which I've been dubbing his Caucasity shirt. Was it kind of harassing an environmental climate protester in Palmerston North? So yeah, interesting. But yeah, no, again, like I just thought it was real funny when he mentioned it. Like, oh, I'm one of those guys. But you know, it's a pleasure to be here on another male podcast.
There's not enough of them. We need a few more.
Yeah, yet another male podcast. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I do. Thanks for coming on. For people who don't know, I didn't meet you at Waitangi, but I saw you at Waitangi on a panel, I think with Chloe and some others, sort of non-Māori allies of Māoridom. Is that fair?
Yeah, it was like a tangata tiriti, tangata moana kind of, ally, accomplice, I guess, panel. And I was really honored to be there, but it still felt really weird to be kind of offered that spot. And so, like, you know, as I said in the panel, I was very close to like swapping out with my Māori Tongan friend who's who's whenua and Roto Kakahi is currently going through a lot of crap and shit, you know, literal shit with the switch pipe. And I was like, that should be talked about here at Waitangi. Like, so, but no, I was very honored to be asked, and I was very honored to be on that panel, and kind of, it was quite a big panel and a lot of heavy hitters too, like, you know, Jane Kelsey. I was like, oh, you know, so it was just, but no, I'm glad that you enjoyed that panel too. I don't know, I just do my thing, so that's kind of what I was doing on that panel.
Well, when you say you do your thing, I mean, they talk about diversifying one's portfolio. There mustn't be anyone in New Zealand who has sort of the same diversification as you do. If people want to find out more about you, what have we got? Wrestling. Why don't you tell? Oh, here we go. Comics, artwork, wrestling, headlocked, and events. You sort of do it all. Do you want to tell us a bit about you, a bit about the moniker, you know, Bloody Samoan, and who you are and what you're about?
Yeah, so for those who know me as a agent provocateur on social media, outside of that, I'm a professional comic book artist and illustrator, animator, professional wrestler, you know, spoken word poet, writer, you know, done some work in film, looking to write and direct my first short film and stuff like that. So I'm an artist. I'm a storyteller first and foremost, and I've been able to work for illustrate comics for the WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment. I've done some trading cards for Marvel. I've illustrated a whole series of kids books, as well as a whole bunch of New Zealand school journals. So every school in the country has my artwork. And I worked as a story artist on Moana 2 for Disney Animation. But then as a wrestler, I've been New Zealand heavyweight champion. I've been New Zealand tag team champion multiple times. So yeah, it's just kind of interesting. And like the moniker of Bloody Samoan came about because when you have a non-Palangi name, it's very hard and very easy for ignorant people to try and spell. And it's also very easy for them to just not even bother. So I was thinking about like, what kind of term, what kind of brand could I have that would really stick in people's minds? And when I was a kid, Bloody Samoan was a term I heard a lot as a kid, and it always had negative connotations. And so I realized that kind of embracing it as kind of my brand as an artist, as a storyteller, meant that I can reclaim that power and turn that negative into a positive. And so now when people are talking about Bloody Samoan, more often than not, they're talking about me and my work rather than
Yeah.
using it as an insult. So that's kind of where the bloody Samoan thing came about. And I'm very proud to be Samoan. You know, I'm born and raised here in Aotearoa, but, you know, you look at me, New Zealander is not the first thing that people comes to people's minds when they see me. And so I was just like, yeah, you know, I'm proud to be Samoan. I look Samoan, you know, so I'm going to embrace that. And funny enough, through my career, I've been able to create a successful career on my own terms, on my own esteem, with, you know, obviously my family and friends. I've never really been one to be supported by the larger art organizations and networks here in Aotearoa. I've kind of had to do it my own way, and I traverse a path that not many people, particularly Samoans and Tangata Moana, travel. And so I had to make it up as I go, and that has very much afforded me autonomy. I'm not shackled by the chains of Create New Zealand and funding organizations. And so, you know, I've always been very vocal about the funding system, and whatnot for CNZ and all of this other stuff, because I exist outside of that, and that kind of translated into kind of, I guess, advocating for artists' rights. You know, it was very much, you know, just kind of a great transition into kind of advocating for rights in general for anyone and everyone that hasn't had, I guess, the freedom to do things like I have in the way I've had them.
It's funny when you step outside that world by choice, and then others are kind of forced into that world. Like I know within the broadcasting realm, unless you're sort of an official, you know, associated with an official mainstream New Zealand on air and that kind of stuff won't touch you. So some people are forced out to be out there, but then when they're out there, the freedoms and stuff with come with that. Like I get what you're saying from a different perspective, sort of thing. It's like, do what you want when you want, your own boss. You know, you rise and fall off your own merits rather than sort of what, for want of a better word, the contract that you've got to fulfill certain criteria. It's cool. I mean, that's not to diss anyway, by the way, who uses NZ on air money. It's a valuable tool for the right people. But no, I feel you. It's cool. Having also, I was interested to hear you say kind of reclaiming the word, because being a young lad who went to St. Peter's College in central Auckland and then spent a lot of time in Mangere and around that area, when I heard it as a child, it was probably the negative as well, which is why I was interested about it. So yeah. So you're with me today. We connected, and we're talking a bit about Destiny Church and what's happening with them at the moment. I guess, and technically we probably have to be careful about what is alleged and what is not, because it's before the courts. But you wrote to me, I'll read it out to make sure that I get it exactly right, and then I want you to dive down deep into it. You said you went about creating real consequences for the attackers via social media, which led into arrests and the court cases. So what I hear when I see that is you are someone who actively maneuvered yourself and the story you were telling on that day, the message, the actions of others, and then that led into what we're seeing in the courts today. Tell us what you did. Tell us how it all happened.
Well, I guess we'll have to kind of go back almost a year to the day, actually. I think this weekend it's a whole year. The rainbow flag action outside Destiny Church in Woody.
Yep.
That was Zane and myself, my friend Zane and myself, the action there. And again, we did that outside of the property, though they allege that we were stalking on their property. But again, we made sure that we kept it legal. We didn't step a single foot on their property. And so having kind of gone up against Destiny Church for almost a whole year, face to face, I've gotten used to their tactics, and I've gotten used to like the way they do things. And so I happened to be at Te Atatu Library just after they've been pushed out of the building.
All right.
And yeah, so I was there. Not when everything went down, but I saw the aftermath, and I saw the hurt, I saw the pain, I saw the trauma that people were dealing with because of what Destiny Church, allegedly Destiny Church or Freedom and Rights Coalition, Man Up and Legacy West Auckland did, in terrorizing the community of Te Atatu. Not just the rainbow community, but it was like kids, library staff, all that, families, young people. So I saw that and I was just like, okay, in the time that I've been going up against you guys, this is the first time you've crossed that line.
Right.
And so for me, I was like, the gloves are off. I was just like, the gloves are off, motherfucker. Like in the times that we've gone back to back, trading verbal jabs, it's always been verbal. This has crossed that line. And seeing the way that the police had kind of prioritized just removing the Man Up West Auckland crew from the building rather than dealing with the assaults and everything that came about because of that, I was like, I've seen this before. Yeah. I've seen this before where the cops have prioritized just removing the threat, but they haven't taken on details. They haven't done all of this stuff. These guys are most likely going to get away with it. They're going to get slapped on the wrist. They're going to, like, I could see the way they were acting. They were celebrating their actions. They were on a high because they felt so empowered by storming that building, right? And so in that crowd is where I clocked the former the former New FM worker. I won't name him. And I remember going, wait, that motherfucker works for New FM.
Had his child with him as well, eh?
Yeah.
But a child.
Yeah. I believe it was his, but so yes, I saw that, and having known some of the Auckland Pride people that were there that were trying to stop them from going up their stairs, I talked to him. I said, "Hey, are you guys okay?" And my friend, she's Samoan, and I said to her, "Do you recognize him?" She goes, "No, because he's from New FM. He's from the Morning Shake show." And she's like, "What the fuck?" Because we were just in this studio last week promoting Pride. I said, "Yes." And now you know how exactly he feels about you people, our Rainbow whānau. And knowing that it was still Pride Month and that some of our other our Tangata Moana Pride and Rainbow Ainga, LGBTQ plus, MVP buff plus people were in that studio earlier that week, I was like, while that guy's in that studio, it's no longer safe for our people. And so I said to her, I said, I'm going to call him out. Shall I do a video? And she goes, fucking do it. Because I didn't care about him, I cared about the victims. And if the people that were directly affected by the actions were telling me, yo, call him out, let's get him to think, I realized that because of his semi-public profile, it was strategic. Unfortunately for him, he's going to take that brunt of real world consequences, because that position that he's in a radio station that is for our people, Tangata Moana people, and Rainbow Ainga, going into that studio is now no longer safe while he's in there. And so that's why I realized that targeting him would elevate the situation and create real world consequences for these Man Up and Destiny Church people. Yeah. And that was the goal. It was like, and in doing so, they can't escape, right? And I think one thing people don't realize, because people are like, oh, they weren't trying to thing, or that what people don't realize is that after Te Atatu, Hugo Girl was scheduled to read at Newland Library. After Te Atatu, that same group were emboldened by their actions in storming Te Atatu that they went to Newland to try and do it again. People forget that. People forget that they were so emboldened that they decided that, yeah, we're going to go to Newland and do this there. And Hugo Girl's reading was cancelled, rightly so. But the people the main instigators of Te Atatu were there at Newland, ready to do it again, including the guy from New FM, formerly from New FM. He was there at Newland, ready to do it again. So people forget that it wasn't just a one-off incident. They wanted to do it again. And because they had no remorse, until I came for their asses. And that's why I did that. And I used social media, I used my platform, I used my connections, particularly in the Tangata Moana circle, to call this guy out, to realize that he, in that position, has a sense of care and a sense of duty to ensure our people are safe. And his involvement, his active support of the action, of that violence, meant that he was no longer safe. And so that's why I did that. And then the following week, People Against Prisons Aotearoa had their Defying Destiny event. And I couldn't make it to that event, but thinking that Destiny Church may show up, I did a video identifying all the main instigators of the Te Atutu Library storming. And again, that was to ensure that our people that were at that event, going to Defying Destiny, can keep an eye out for any of those instigators who may look to, again, repeat what they did the week before, because they were emboldened. They were willing to do it again on the same day. Luckily, they didn't show up, but in that video, in terms of identifying the main instigators, that video footage was forwarded to police to help police identify those who have been arrested and are currently under name suppression. So so it was just really interesting, just understanding that if we didn't do anything, they most likely would have just gone a slap on the wrist, or like a, hey, don't do that again. But in targeting the new FM worker, the former new FM worker, it elevated the situation. It created real world consequences. And from that, it created a chain reaction to the other actual instigators of the violence, through, again, social media posts and whatnot. And, I did take a few hits from my own people, because a lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't come for new FM and whatnot. But it was just like, the truth of the matter is, if I had a real agenda or real vendetta against new FM, I would have waited till Monday afternoon to post my video after that guy had gone to work and acted like nothing had happened. And then I'd call them out and be like, hey, why did you have this guy at work? Because I suspect, and I have a very good feeling, that if it wasn't for my video, which I posted from the car park of Te Atutu, my initial video, which called him out. So I was heated too. I was really pissed off because I saw firsthand. That allowed New FM a couple of days grace to try and figure out what to do about it. Because it would have been far worse for them to try and damage control after he's gone to work and acted like nothing's happened. And I know that if it wasn't for my video, they probably wouldn't have known that he was there at the other two, right? And he would have just gone to work like nothing had happened. And again, once they crossed that line, for me, it was all gloves are off. I'm coming for them.
Interesting response from New FM as well. They did the right thing. This is nearly a month old now, of course, but New FM then apologized. So one could say that with your encouragement, you helped them to see clearly, so then they could also do the right thing, which was to apologize on behalf of one of their workers as well. I'm trying to think about, we've been talking completely different conversation, but last week we were talking to Dr. Gary Pienda around what we need to do at the moment and how we need to function within pushing back sort of thing. What do you think the average Joe needs to do when it comes to groups like Destiny or other groups that are making part of our vulnerable communities unsafe? What should we be doing as a people to try and A, help those vulnerable communities, but B, call out those groups that are doing these things against them?
Yeah, it's really hard, because a lot of the people that are doing these actions are doing them at the behest of their leader or leaders, like Brian Tamaki, or like Tala Leaso Maivao, who is the leader of the Man Up West Auckland chapter, right? So a lot of the people are our vulnerable. A lot of them are our marginalized. And there's always a sense of pity when I go up against them, because I can see how their search for something meaningful has been warped, has been exploited by Destiny Church, and weaponized in a way that it isn't healed. It is just instead directed towards their perceived enemies. and there's the calls for like removing the charitable status of Man Up and Destiny Church and all of that stuff, which I think A is good, but B, we need to also ensure that there are processes in place for if there is a charitable status to be removed from Destiny Church, that there are processes in place that also help those who are gonna feel the lack of that charitable stuff, because a lot of churches, they do work for communities and whatnot, and so for me, that's the other side. It's like, yeah, we can call for this, but we also got to make sure that people are also looked after, if that charitable status is removed from Destiny Church. So yeah, it's really hard. Like the foot soldiers, I guess, is always the public facing thing. Like Brian Tamaki only shows up in person if it's gonna look good for socials. He does it for clout. He's a clout chaser, right? Or cloud chaser, I guess. When it comes to religion, but no. But oftentimes it's his grunts, it's his foot soldiers, and for me, it's they having gone up against him. They have a script. There's only they only stick to their talking points, and they always have one person designated as the speaker. Everyone else is like, again, a lemming. Yeah, it's a very weird dynamic because you see one person speaking and everyone's just kind of standing there like doing what they're told. They're following orders. And then on our side, we're chanting in unison, we're singing in unison. There's a synergy that comes with a shared collective cause, right? And so I found it really interesting that it was easy for us to drown them out because they only have one person speaking at a time, because that's the hierarchy of power within their cult, within their church, within their belief system, right? So it's in terms of going up against them, like it's been very interesting. If you could get them off script, like that's a win. That's when you know that you're chipping away at their armor in a sense, and you're making them forget their script.
I've experienced that today. Not doing this part of the story yet, but I had some interactions with Juliet Moses on Twitter, who, for people who don't know, is the spokesperson for Jewish Foundation for something, Zionist group, right? And by about 3 tweets in, I just kept asking her, do you denounce the war crimes of Israel? And she was like, I denounce all war crimes no matter who commits it. No. Do you first agree that right now Israel is committing war crimes? Is Israel committing war crimes now in this conflict? And do you denounce them? She's run away off her talking points. She's run away. She's made some kind of pithy argument about, I've got a job to do, you don't even have a job, and blah blah blah. Yeah. But the thing is, do you agree that war crimes are happening right now? That's not part of the narrative for her to answer, for her group to answer, and got them off the talking points, and they're gone. She's gone. Yeah. So I've seen that today.
Yeah, like it's funny too, because people that know me through social media, like, they're like, oh, is this guy like that in real life? I'm like, unfortunately, I am. What you see is what you get. And so in my in-person interactions with Disney Church, I am roasting the shit out of them. And some of them have gone viral because at the museum, when the little group of 5, I can name them all too if you want, but I was like, I know who these guys are, but and it's really funny too. Again, in my research and finding out who these people are, when they rock up and you say their name, you see them drop their nuts just a little bit. I'm like, that's right, welcome to my wheelhouse. But they were like just saying the same old talking points. I remember the main person was Carl Mukaraka, who was if you don't know him, he was the Vision Party candidate for somewhere, but he's known as the fence climbing guy that interrupted Luxon.
Over the back fence. Yep,
Yeah,
gotcha.
that's Carl Mukaraka.
Yep.
And he's one of the main kind of Destiny Church Auckland guys. So he was kind of heading the counter protest. It's like, again, 5 of them at the Auckland Museum when our Palestinian whānau here in Tāmaki were wanting to celebrate at least the news of the ceasefire.
Yep.
Right? It's like, hey, there's some relief, right? Obviously, it's not perfect, but at some sense of relief. So they wanted to celebrate that at the museum. So we showed up to the museum. This cadre of 5 Destiny Church man-up people show up. Carl Mukaraka being the leader. He just kept saying the same old things. And it's really interesting too, because despite the large kind of Maori membership of Destiny Church, they will never say Aotearoa. Right? They always refer to New Zealand. And I remember Carl saying that we are grateful to the colonizers for bringing Christianity to us. I mean, you're such a Polynesian. And I remember just going back and forth because he was bringing up the Maori battalion. Because the reason why we're at the Auckland Museum is because on the side of the Auckland Museum, there is the plaque that says Palestine.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't say Israel, it says Palestine. And, New Zealand's history in Palestine isn't great. Sarafend massacre. But Google it. But it says Palestine, which is why we're there. So he was bringing up the Māori battalion, and I was just like, fighting for this country, fighting for the flag, all this stuff. And I'm like, you mean the same Māori battalion that fought for this country, fought for this flag, then came home and were treated like shit by that same government? And I just kept thinking with that, right? And it got to a point where he goes, brother, what you're saying is pono. We are the native people of Aotearoa. I went, wait, did you just say Aotearoa? You just said Aotearoa. And people are like, it's like, so it was just really funny just to kind of get him there. And he kept trying to sing the national anthem. And when one of his lackeys, who's often at Auckland Palestine events trying to counter protest, but does a horrible job of it, I'm like his worst nightmare. When he went to speak on his megaphone, it wouldn't work. So I think it ran out of battery. And I was just like, bro, like, what's wrong? And when you have pity for these people, like you kind of, you feel sorry for them. And I was like, I feel sorry for you, bro. And so I decided to sing a song, and I was like, what's a sad song that we can all sing? And then I realized the meow meow song. Meow 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 meow. Meow 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 meow. So I started singing that because I was like, everyone can sing it. You don't have to know the lyrics. Everyone knows it from the social. And then next thing you know, we're all singing it at them, drowning them out with meows. And like some of the cops are laughing. And even a couple of the Destiny Church people were laughing when I started it.
Real life.
And that went viral. Yeah. And now it's become an actual tactic to kind of drown them out, because when you have authoritarian figures like that, fascist figures like that, which are about instilling the authority upon other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can undermine them with comedy, they fucking hate that shit.
Yeah.
100%. And so that's my job in the front line, is like, I am going to mock you. I'm going to make fun of you. I am going to make sure that you are humiliated because you fucking hate that. It totally undermines your authority, or the perceived authority you have in your head. And so that's where I've kind of found my niche, is that like, I do these videos, but then I also do these scathing, mocks and roasting that really kind of cuts at the heart of what they're trying to establish with the authority.
Hey, 2 more things. Kiwi Bird wants to know where they can get the t-shirt from that you're wearing. Where can we get that t-shirt from?
Yes, this t-shirt. I'm not too sure if you saw it, but Kirsty Murfitt from Tauranga, failed politician, Little Miss Murfitt shared it on her Facebook, trying to talk shit about like my designs, and it ended up kind of resulting in more t-shirt sales. So in terms of my and this one was one of the t-shirts that she had an issue with my Die Cook, my Captain Cook one, and also my Coca Colonizers one, as well as this t-shirt. And lots of triggered white people were like, it's racist, blah, blah, blah. In fact, I actually got an email from one of her supporters that that told me to hang myself and called me an N-word and stuff. So yeah, and the dumbass posted it from his personal account, so it had his name and everything. And so
where's the merch on? Is it on your website?
It's not on my website. It is on my socials. So like at Bloody Psalm 1 on Instagram, you'll find links and bios, as well as on my TikTok.
We'll come back to it.
So Bloody Psalm 1 on Instagram. You'll find a link in bio to my t-shirts, including this one. There's a hoodie as well. And even like on Christie's post, Kane Warren, the head of Man Up New Zealand, commented going, "Boost our sales, Man Up New Zealand." I was just like, so it was just kind of funny how my videos and my artwork are causing a stir amongst all of these racists and stuff. Bro. In fact, I'm not too sure if you're aware of it, but Penny Henry got in trouble last year for sharing some of my artwork.
Oh, really? So
I did the Garbage Pail Kids, and I did the one where like there was the shit coming out of Seymour's eyes. So Penny Henry shared that on the socials, and he got in trouble for it, and it made the news last year. So it was really interesting. Again, like knowing that my videos, like, so currently I'm blocked by Brian Tamaki, Destiny Church, Freedom and Rights Coalition, and Man Up West Auckland that I'm aware of, because they're afraid of me. They're afraid of the information I'm able to gather to draw to expose their asses. And the thing is, I use their own live streams and their own photos of that day against it.
Well, like, that's the thing. The day after, we'll finish with this, right? The day after. This is from the day after when Brian Tamaki was speaking. This is on my Twitter feed. I made this last week. I just want to know from you, an opinion-based question, how Brian Tamaki can't face charges as well for being the instigator.
Now they have this going on, and so I know it just bugged me all through the day, and I was communicating, and I said to Tala, "Great job what you're doing, but I want you to storm the library they're in. I want you to storm the library they're in.
To storm the library they're in.
And shut it down." And he said, "Yep, right, on to it, Apostle." At a word or a phone call, I can guarantee immediate response. A couple of times I didn't answer, but sorry. Immediate response and obedience to a leader.
There you go. Obedience to a leader. So I don't know. I've been trying to figure it out to find a lawyer to come and commentate, but I don't know the legal definition of incitement. But if that's not it, I don't know what else it could be.
Yeah, I know. I find it really weird that like the following day he was happy to admit that he sent the order that resulted in the assaults of 8 victims, I believe, have come forward.
I think 8, yeah.
And one of them, one of those people being arrested is subject to indecent assault charges, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the live stream footage, you see the point when they get the call, when Tala gets the call, because they all congregate in the public space outside the library, and because you hear them go, "Come in, come in, come in." Once they get the call, that's when Tala leads the charge to storm the library. And so it was just really interesting. It's like, yo, you see the point where they get the call, where they get the order to storm the library, and then they act immediately on those orders. The orders that came as admitted by Brian Tamaki himself. So yeah, I have no idea why he isn't being charged with that.
And that's still there. I just had a look now while we were talking. There's the live stream there. It's still up.
That's the thing.
Still there. That's the one there, 16th of the 2nd. That's got all of it in there. Got them celebrating what they did, admitting to what they did, him saying he basically commanded it. It's all still there. It's all still up.
Yep. And the live streams for the assault and everything is still up there on the Mana News Live Facebook page. I think the only live stream they pulled down later on that day, or maybe a couple of days later, was their own, where it was right up in there as they were assaulting people.
Right.
I think there was only one video they pulled, but yeah, everything else is still there. So yeah, I have no idea why he hasn't been charged with the incitement, because it's like, yeah,
maybe that's the next round of social media interference, Michel.
Yeah, well, I did put it out there, and I know it had been reported on because I know the media is watching my socials for what's the thing that needs to be reported on, and obviously because it's on social media, they have no they don't need to contact me to publish like the stuff. That would be nice. It would be courteous to kind of be like, hey, we're going to use this for a story. But no, I've seen them quote him and show clips of him saying that. But again, nothing's happening. Like, what the fuck?
All right. Hey, dude, thank you so much for coming on with us tonight. Anytime you want a place to come and rant, feel free. We'd love to have you again. And everyone in the chat is basically in one voice saying thank you for what you did and thank you for what you're doing, especially exposing these dangerous groups attacking our vulnerable people.
Oh, no, it's funny because I keep telling people I'm just doing my thing, really, and that's all you can really ask of people is do what you can with what you got. And I'm very lucky that what I've got is this massive range of skills that I can utilize to attack an enemy like a fe'e, like an octopus, with many multitudes of angles and approaches and whatnot. But like, again, everyone back home, do what you can with what you got. Just do something. So.
And to find out more and follow Michel, it's www.bloodysamoan.com, and the Instagram links were all up there if you want to go look for some of that merch and stuff as well. Dude, thanks for joining us tonight.
All good. Thank you very much.
And we'll talk to you soon, eh? All the best. Thank you, team. I see there's a bunch of super chats and stuff that have been coming in. We'll get to some of those now. Kiwi Bird says Chippy should reach out to Gary's Economics. Yep, I think he should. Kiwi Bird also says we love our Polynesian geeks. XL Deer, late fee watching New Zealand football qualify. It's for the World Cup, isn't it? I saw news on that today. Kaimatada. Really appreciate the mahi you do, Bloody Samoan. Kiwi Bird again, gosh. Michel could literally throw Brian Tamaki. It's true. Bill B, late fee, love the t-shirts, stirring up plenty of poo tangata online, LOL. Citizen Gold, how does name suppression work when Tamaki posts a video naming and celebrating the people that attacked the library? We can force the courts to address that breach of name suppression. Can we force, sorry. The thing is they got denied having their name suppressed for that exact reason, but then they have a right to, what do you call it when you challenge it again? Appeal. So because it's under appeal at the moment, then nothing can do it. So technically they've lost name suppression, but until the courts hear the appeal, it stays in place. I think there's one who got to keep it, and they might have been 17, and they basically said, this child is a child, which, personally I think is kind of fair enough. Nanik 75. Hey everyone, aroha mai, late fee. Oh, another one from Nanek. Brian gets a kick out of the sheep followers' obedience, and they get a kick out of having a cause to act on. Yeah, the other thing I was going to say to Michel is that Brian will drop them like a hot stone. Don't know if you've seen in America at the moment. I was looking at doing it tonight. Maybe we'll do it tomorrow. The situation with the Venezuelans being picked up by Trump's stormtroopers and sent off to what country do they go to? You'll correct me in the chat, but a country that's not their homeland. And now they're starting to realize, when I say now, the administration, the people knew, are starting to realize, oopsie, maybe made a mistake here. Trump said in the weekend, I never signed that. I never signed that order. I never signed that order. I don't know who I don't know who did it. I never signed that order. Yet his press secretary, after he signed the order, came out and told the whole world how Trump had just signed that order. Because it's bad news, he's dropping them like a hot stone. Brian Tamaki does the same. Amosi, however you need it, call her BHN. I am always late, but watch every show. Thank you. Thank you for your koha, and thank you for always watching the show. And even more importantly, thank you for watching the show. Just trying to think what to do next. I had a thought in my brain and it kind of went away. There's the story that Michel was talking about, the pride flag outside Destiny Church. And he said his friend Zane, this morning a pride flag was raised on public property outside Destiny Church. This was not done to hate Destiny, but so our rainbow community know they deserve to feel safe everywhere. Unfortunately, Destiny were waiting at the bottom. Oh, I pushed something, bottom of the tree, and assaulted me. There you go. Wow, that's an assault as well. Because, you know, just like Jesus did. Assaults people, allegedly. That one's done. Okay, let me just tell you a couple of things that are going on at the moment. A little bit more housekeeping. You guys got involved last week in this kind of giving blankets to Gaza, we called it, when I made a silly off-the-hand jokey comment about needing to buy a new electric blanket, and then some people put a blanket fund together. Don't start this again now because we've already donated. I'm just telling the story. And I was like, oh, this is, and then Chewie thought, well, why don't we donate any of this money that comes in to, we kind of said, giving blankets to Gaza or something to children in Gaza. And so we did. So that's the show that you guys did it in. On my back end, it says an estimate of like $396. I know that you guys are probably saying it felt like more than that. I'm waiting for the estimate to become confirmed, and also YouTube takes 30% of the super chats. So if it was 550, 560, that would equal about 400 after they take their 30% cut. Do they? 30% cut. Just wanted to say today I made a donation to UNICEF. UNICEF were doing a particular focus on children in Gaza. Thank you for your one-off donation of 412 New Zealand dollars to this appeal. It's going to make a huge difference in a child's life. Yeah. And so it was particularly for kids in Gaza. And actually, ironically, I think it mentioned like getting blankets and clothing for kids in Gaza, which I thought was kind of cool because the blanket theme kind of flowed through. So we put that through today. We will keep an eye on it. I'll keep an eye on the post videos because I know other people had put some more things through in the next few days after that as well. Once all those numbers come in, I'll probably put another, it's going to be about $100 through, which I'll do on your behalf. And yes, it does say your awesome Pat, but that should be your awesome BHN community because you guys gave and we donated, just so you know that has happened. Okay. I can show you these again now because I flipped my camera around. Oh, look, see, it's working now. Stickers are in. Tax work less, tax wealth more. Stickers are in. We are the grassroots. And remember, anyone who buys a hoodie or a sticker pack, which are these packs down here, t-shirt or a hoodie. So far this month, everyone has received a We Are Grassroots stickers, unless I forgot. Tell me and I'll send one out. But for the rest of the month, we'll also include the new branding as well. Speaking of this, I've had several people ask me about this one. This will be coming out in a t-shirt next month. So there you go, bhnshop.nz. And yeah, there we go. Off and running. Okay. Let's have a look at Gary Economics. Gary Economics. Chewie is due to join us. He's at a movie, and I imagine he'll be here momentarily. Let's have a look at Gary Economics, because Gary Economics, this is actually not from this video this week. It's from the video from last week. So if you're a follower of Gary, you probably have seen this. This week, he did an interesting bit where he was talking about should I let Labour come and talk to me? So the Labour Party in the UK have reached out to Gary Stevenson's his name, Gary's Economics. They want to come on his show. And he's going, should I or shouldn't I have them on? I like this conversation and I like learning from Gary. He explains quite clearly where we are financially now. When I say we, I mean working class, so the poor, the middle, the rich, and the governments. Working class, middle class, wealthy governments, and how we got here. And that's really what the first part of this conversation is.
Okay, so we've got these 4 groups in society. We've got the working class, we've got the middle class, we've got the government, and we've got the rich. Now, for most of history and in most of the world today, pretty much all of the wealth in society, the land, the property, the natural resources, the businesses, are owned by the rich.
Mm-hmm.
But for a period of time after the Second World War, we had a situation where
so that talks about the robber barons and things of the 1800s. You think back to like pre-industrial world, it was kings and lords and manors, and they had all the wealth and peasants had nothing. And so this equaling of society is not a big part of our whole society. In fact, the majority of our history, it hasn't been like that. The wealthy have controlled pretty much everything, and everyone else has been poor. But after World War II, there was a change.
All of these groups held a decent amount of wealth. So in my parents' generation, it was normal for even working class families to have a pension and own their own property, for example. So we had a period where all of these groups had a decent amount of wealth. But the rich...
So you think about 50s, 60s in New Zealand, mums, dads, grandparents, they could work, one person could work full-time job, they could have a family, they could own a home. That, after World War II, that was the world.
More, and especially after their taxes were cut in the 80s, they started to accumulate more and more. And that meant that when other groups in society wanted to access this wealth, wanted to use this wealth, wanted to use housing, property, natural resources, buildings, they had to pay rents, profits, dividends to the rich. And wealth started to flow away from these other groups and towards the rich. And these flows really started to increase, especially during the 2008 crisis and during the COVID crisis. And it led to a situation where really there was very large scale transfer of wealth, and that is still ongoing. And the end result was that the working class lost pretty much all their wealth and got into a bit of debt as well. The government is now massively in negative wealth, so they've only got debt. And the middle class, they kept some of their wealth, but not so much. And the wealth of the rich just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, especially during COVID. What this meant was, because these groups of society who traditionally are the big spenders in terms of proportion of their wealth.
Because we have to be. Like during COVID, when all the wealthy people couldn't go out and play on their jet skis, so they hoarded wealth. They couldn't go on their first class trips overseas, so they hoarded wealth. What happened to the working class? Well, they still had to pay their rent. So that still went out. Whereas the wealthy got wealthier. Even if they did nothing, they got wealthier because they couldn't go and buy their ivory back scratchers. During that kind of year to 18-month period, everything was limited. So the money just built up. And then they had to go and spend it on something.
Losing their wealth, spending fell, wages fell. And because these guys have much more wealth now and these guys have less, these transfer payments which you have to make to use wealth, access resources, went up because you've got less resources now, they've got more, so you need to pay to use a greater amount of resources. So these flows increased. And now we're in a situation where basically these groups are basically wiped out. The working class has basically nothing left. These guys already live in increasingly desperate poverty. The government is like totally bankrupted. They're out. And the middle class has just this little bit left, which they're hanging on to, but it's...
So the middle class are breaking even, I guess is what he's saying. The poor are gone. The governments financially are gone. The middle class are scraping by, and it's all gone to the wealthy.
Gradually being sucked out, and before long, they will be gone too. And then you end up in this situation where basically the rich own everything. You have no middle class. Nobody else owns anything. And an economy like that looks like Nigeria, looks like India, looks like Brazil, and basically you have very broad poverty. If you want to fix this, you need to get wealth flowing back in the other direction. And there are different ways to do this. In theory, you can do it without taxes. And if you are interested in non-tax solutions for getting ordinary families their wealth back, we have a video called The Wealth Time Limit, which I did years ago. But realistically, I think your only realistic hope of getting the wealth back in the working class, back in the middle class, getting wealth to flow away from the rich, is, to quote the Dutch historian Rutger Bregman, taxes, taxes, taxes. I do really think this is the only way. I know it's difficult because the rich will oppose it, but I think unless we can get much higher levels of tax on the rich, I don't think there is any way we can get that wealth back to working class and middle class families.
So he goes on to talk about what's happening to working class and middle class families. He goes on to talk about what's happening to the rich. And he's basically putting forward a notion that 70 to 90% of the population will be impacted by this cycle of money going to the rich. So when you think about, working class, lower class, beneficiary, middle class, that if they're not in the top 30%, so obviously beneficiary, working class, those guys aren't. Middle class, is the middle class in the top 30%? Probably not. So upper middle class and rich, they'll still survive. Middle class and down will not. And remember what Gary says is he's made a career on betting on the downfall of society, and he's been right every time. And anytime someone challenges him, he goes, well, just make your bet. Make your bet. I've made mine, and I'm right more than I'm wrong. I don't think he actually ever says he's wrong either. He basically says he's always right. So this is the last little bit I'm going to play you as well. He talks a bit about what the new political right is doing and the answer for the left. And there was someone in the chat before that said, we should, bring Gary over for Chewie. Well, he gives out an answer that the left need to do to stem this flood of capital away from everyone and into the bank accounts and pockets of the wealthy and super wealthy.
That creates this massive gap for new ideas. So I think we are here in this space now. There is a massive popular demand for new ideas. And really, the political left has almost completely failed to put any new ideas on the table. And that gap is being filled by a new political right, which I think has been very effective in doing things like utilizing social media, utilizing influencers, especially on the right, to basically sell a new political story. And they are, in a sense, taking advantage of the exact same thing which I've just described to you, which is that politics has failed, media has failed. Mm-hmm. There is massive demand for something which is new because people know that the status quo is failing. And these guys are filling that gap with the problem is foreigners, the problem is immigrants, and they will be very successful. They clearly have taken power of the US government. They will increasingly take control of European governments, and they have taken control of many European governments. They are successful, I think, not necessarily because they are good. I think simply because no one else has really tried to occupy that gap. I think there is massive demand for and massive potential for a simple message delivered to working people. The reason you are getting poor is because your wealth is being squeezed out by the rich and the super rich. They are taking the wealth from you. You are unable to compete with them. The working class is being bankrupted. The middle class is disappearing. Tax, wealth, not work.
There's your messaging. Tax, wealth, not work. Tax, work less. Tax, wealth, more. And we had Chippy on last Monday, and we showed him the t-shirts, and we said, there's your message for the next election. The right play politics better. The right do pithy slogans better. The left look down their nose at that kind of political gain, going, well, we'd rather go deep into policy. Yeah, but that's unfortunately, and I'm a fan of going deep into policy, but to get your message out there, tax, work less, tax, wealth, more, bumper sticker. Tax, wealth, not work, bumper sticker. Get into government and then go deep into your policy. I'm not saying don't have your policy ready before you go into government, obviously, but the public need the headline. I actually hate this. I really hate this. I really genuinely hate this because it does feel like dumbing it down. But what I'm also aware of, I think many of you guys are as well, is we might be dumbing it down, but what we're doing is also being realists. Tax work less, tax wealth more. Simple messaging. So what Gary's saying is what we've all been saying for a very long time, is the left needs to get their fucking message sorted out.
I honestly think we have a chance of winning power on that. And I think in this country, in the short term, our because we have this centrist party in power, our problem is how do we squeeze the centre on that? And I think the power we have is that the centre is, number one, phenomenally unpopular, and number two, will fail on the economy. So I think we really have power there. The longer term risk is not the centre, because I think the centre will progressively lose popularity, but these new right ideas. The problem we have is that they will always be much, much, much better funded than us. Quite simply because once billionaires realise that the long-term battle is a battle between tax the rich and blame the foreigners, the billionaires will increasingly aggressively fund blame the foreigners as an idea. But we do also have a kind of trump card against this,
pardon the pun,
new right, which is, when it comes to economic policy, almost all of these new right parties want to slash taxes on rich people. And I think that's partly ideological, and I think it's partly because they're funded by billionaires, and that's what the billionaires want, which means
it's payback. It's payback, isn't it?
Is that even in the cases where these guys do take power, and we've seen it in some European countries, but most obviously we've seen it recently in the US, these guys will also preside over an increase in wealth inequality, which will mean, again, a squeeze of assets away from the middle class, away from the working class, and further falls in ordinary families' living conditions. So these guys, whilst they will be very well funded, and they are very clearly in the ascendancy, they have a really, really serious weakness, which is they are literally impoverishing their own supporters. But this is not just the weakness of the...
So there you go. So this is something else I want to mention as well, when they're literally impoverishing their own supporters. It is... hello, sir. How you doing?
Hello.
I'll just finish this thought. I've watched the program Leave the World Behind over the weekend. Have you seen that movie on Netflix yet, Chewie?
No, I haven't.
Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke, Kevin Bacon. Quite a really interesting movie. It's got really bad reviews because they basically paint Tesla in a bad light, and all the Tesla bros have jumped on to give it a bad review. But this was a line that was said from the movie. So he's just basically said voting against their own self-interest, right? This is a quote from the movie. I wrote this down as well, but here it is on someone's Instagram. The scary ones, though, are the ones who don't learn. Nothing frightens me than a person unwilling to learn, even at their own expense. That's a darkness I will never understand. And I just thought about that when listening to Gary's economics and thinking about the people who are voting against their own self-interest because they think the wealthy are going to do something for them. We talked about this on Thursday night, Maya Angelou. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time they know themselves better than you know them. Why would they change? And it seems that people who vote against their own self-interest, for people like Trump or for people like Luxon, and Trump, you've seen Trump, he's done a 4-year cycle. You know what's going to happen. You maybe not have seen Luxon, but you've seen his neoliberal agenda. You've seen Seymour, you've seen Peters. And the scary ones are the ones who don't learn. Nothing frightens me more than a person unwilling to learn, even at their own expense. So it's terrifying. Sure, you jumped in like halfway through that. Is there? Did you pick up on any of that? Do you want to have a chat out of any of that?
Yeah, I'm glad to see another bit from Gary there. I've been devouring it as I get to it as well. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about there, especially regarding the voting against the self-interest. You said there that it's people thinking that if the rich get wealthy, then it'll trickle down to them. I don't think it's that at all. I think it's more primal. For those sort of people, they're targeting it at fear and at a sort of a sense of like a poor self-worth, right? These people think that they're better than you. And only we are sort of pointing at these people that go to university. You know, look, Trump shutting down the Department of Education, you know,
which he's got no right. He's got no right to do. There has to be an act of Congress.
No, it doesn't matter. He's doing it anyway.
Yeah,
you know, and this was a linchpin of that that 2025 thing that he swore that he'd never have anything to do with. It's just it coincidental that he's done almost half of it in the first couple of days. But that's the whole thing. It's like the education in America is horrific. It's over 50%. Don't read above I think it's an 11-year-old's level, and I had to check that stat was true, and it's correct. There's quite a large portion of the states that is functionally illiterate. So if they turn to them and go, look at these people that go to university, they'd look down their noses at you, but I don't. Look at these foreigners coming and taking your jobs. I'm going to get rid of them. We have seen this play out time and time again historically, and if it gets away on people, it leads to camps. You know,
that's what that law is. That, you know, that 18 whatever it was, 58 in World War I, World War II law of in camps full of Japanese prisoner of war. That's the law that he's using now. It's also fascinating how dumb voters, general, put myself in there, are in America now. The Republicans are starting talking about they're the party of the elites, whereas just before the election it was the Democrats who were elites and it's a bad thing. They're all now saying the Democrats are morons, they don't even go to real colleges, we're the elites, we're the smart ones, and like that it's flipped. Like in the space of months it's flipped, and the voters buying it, the tribe is buying it. It's just bizarre.
And you're talking about you know, Labor's messaging and that sort of thing. That's the messaging that Labor needs to prepare to combat as well. It's all well and good putting a fully formed fucking sensible tax policy in front of people, but there's a big chunk of the electorate that doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, there's
a big chunk of the electorate that might turn to, say, the Indian immigrant population and go, I don't like them. Who's going to do something about it? You know, and we kind of always look at our own systems and go, hey, look, it gets that ugly overseas. It's not that ugly here. It can turn. And we're already seeing a lot of politicians talking about race in a way that makes me very uncomfortable. And I don't think we're as far down the track as they are in the States. I don't think we're as far down the track as they are in parts of Europe and that sort of thing. But I say that as he frantically heads to Reddit to go into the conservative subreddit. God, have I blocked it? Probably have for my own sanity. What do they call it? Chat, help me out. What's the New Zealand conservative subreddit? Because I saw something horrific today, and I was like, surely even our conservatives will be pointing out and going how horrifically racist this post was.
And they're
I'm waiting on you, chat. What's it called?
Well,
it's not. It's a New Zealand conservative subreddit.
While you're doing that, Arvid's is paid your late fee. So is Exceldia. So
I can be late again.
You covered.
It was just so horrifically racist, and I looked at it and I was like, oh, surely, you know, New Zealanders would, conservative Kiwi. Thank you, Peter. Never go there. If you've never gone there, never go there. Conservative Kiwi. There we go. Yeah, I kind of sit here and think, well, we won't fall for this sort of stuff. And then I see a post like this and I go, okay, so conservative Kiwi is the thin part of the wedge when it comes to this. So for people that can't see that, the title of this is First the UK, then Canada, now us. And it is an AI generated photo of a single white woman holding up a sign that says they have to go back. And behind her is hundreds of AI generated Indian looking people. And I was just like, that is just so out in the open. And then there's all of these people in the subreddit going, yeah, I went to Europe and it's not the Europe that I remember will be next. And we've got to get rid of all of these people. And I don't recognize Central Auckland anymore. It's hideous sort of stuff. And politicians will see that. New Zealand First will see that and go, hey, look, we actually don't need that many votes. So I'm going to talk to the tiny but motivated anti-vaxxer movement. I'm going to talk to the tiny but motivated because we only need to get across the line and we're back in the game. And that's exactly what happened last election. So that sort of stuff just has my antenna tweaking. Like New Zealand First, as we saw from Winston's speech this weekend, is just priming for that vote, that anti-woke vote. Sure, there's not a lot of these people around, but there's enough to get them over the line. There are more people that didn't vote in our election than voted for New Zealand First. So that's our mission.
Yeah.
To get these people to fucking vote, to see that it matters. It's the disenfranchisement that they see in the States with their fucked system and the way that they patrol who votes and where the polling booths are and how corrupted their system is. We just have to get people to use our system.
Yep. So let's go into that right now. It's a story from last night, but it's important that we have a look at what Winston Peters is setting up, as Chewie's just laid out quite well.
New Zealand First Leader Winston Peters has pledged to declare war on woke thinking in a fiery State of the Nation speech in Christchurch. He also took aim at Labour, calling them a bunch of unreformed losers who he blames for ruining the economy. But as Peters spoke, protesters repeatedly interrupted his address. Thomas Mead was there.
It was loud from the very beginning. A cacophony of voices, all vying for attention. The New Zealand First Party faithful running the gauntlet. The entrance packed with a mix of protesters, from those supporting the Palestinian cause.
What we want him to do is, first of all, speak out and condemn Israel for what it's doing.
To those supporting Israel.
We are still waiting for hostages to be returned.
As well as backers of greyhound racing.
We're his people. He's letting us down badly.
And protesters speaking against it.
Ban greyhound racing now. It's 2 years, it's too long.
Inside, Winston Peters took the stage, ready to rumble.
There were hundreds of protesters outside to try and intimidate and influence you.
The Foreign Minister taking the gloves off as the crowd joined in.
Shame on them. As Elvis sang, looking for trouble? You've come to the right place.
Changing the subject to criticise the previous Labour government.
That claim from Hipkins and Robinson made about the economy back then was an outright litany of lies.
Labour has fired back at that, claiming the current coalition has driven the economy into a recession. Meanwhile, Peters was vowing to improve things in future, saying he would better the economy, defend workers and declaring war on what he calls woke thinking. But once again, it became a contest for attention. Pro-Palestinian protesters hidden in the crowd, strategically popping up every 5 minutes before being dragged out by security.
They're probably able to sneak in because they were white. I'm just thinking there's a common theme between these protesters so far.
fellow Kiwis utterly divided, all parties attempting to blame the other. Thomas Mead, One News.
All parties attempting to blame the other. I don't think that's accurate.
Yeah, that's a super weird comment to wrap up that piece too. First of all, to the protesters that got in and stood up, good on you. That's an incredibly confronting thing to do, and I think you have stones to stand up in a room that is not going to be welcoming to your message and still deliver it. Well done. Yeah, like as far as the Palestine thing, because there were protests right throughout the country yesterday in response to a struggle to call it a renewed offensive because it hasn't stopped, but Israel's latest transgressions. Here in Dunedin, there was quite a good turnout, and there was one pro-Israel supporter on the other side of the road getting absolutely no attention. So that's the message as far as I'm concerned. The other thing I wanted to say, sort of just looping back to Gary, is I've seen some, because he's obviously getting traction. He's obviously talking to people and they're going, yes, this is, I feel this message. It was some comments that my wife passed on to me actually of like, with his comments of like the way to fix this is with tax. That's the mechanism that we have. That's the simplest tool that we have. And people coming back at him and going, well, how would you do it then? And they're expecting him to have an answer. He's a trader. He's not a tax expert. Like, he's just pointing out to people that we've had the mechanism to control this growth of wealth. He's not the one that's standing here there going, I'm the only one with the answer. He's the one that's pointing at the problem and going, you have tools to stop it. It's up to the government, the tax experts, to sit there and go, okay, if we're going to go after the wealthy, this is how we have to do it. Like, don't just sit there and go, well, you've got to tell us how to do it. It's I can see their argument fermenting. Like, and we see it every time we talk about a wealth tax, and people go, well, if we do the wealth tax, then the wealthy will leave. And then there might be a follow-up question of, yeah, but where will they go? And then it's all just hand waving and it's all too hard. Like,
or where has it happened? Because I don't know anywhere that's happened. So let's test that hypothesis. Let's test it.
So the other thing is here is you acknowledge that, like, yes, in the past when we've taxed the wealthy heavier, we've been able to do a higher standard of living and we've been able to do bigger projects and that sort of thing. We all acknowledge that. And then the wealthy over the space of decades have taken those tools away. And we've got in this loop of basically we've got two sides of the argument. The side saying, hey, actually, we're going to have another go at trickle-down economics because the wealthy want us to do it. And then the other side that should normally go, no, let's tax them because we want to get some shit done. Actually going, no, we won't tax them harder, but we're the good guys because we're not going to tax them any less. Like, I don't want the centrist nonsense when it comes to this. If the question is we tax them harder, then they leave the country, then close that loophole. If the next thing is, oh, we can't tax them harder because they'll just put it into trusts, then close that loophole. Yeah. Like, if you think that you know what they're going to do, close the fucking loophole.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to encourage the wealthy to grow their funds and not just hide it away, then incentivize it to put it into productive industries. Incentive, like, we won't tax you if you invest all your money in a startup New Zealand business. You know, that's a suggestion. I'm not a tax expert. I don't know how that works. Someone tell me how it works.
Yeah.
You know, rather than just going, no, because they'll do this. Well, then don't let them.
And what happens when you get people introducing these ideas for conversation? They just get shot down. I mean, the Greens tax, the ideas for the last election just shot down. I remember interviewing Hone Harawira, and his idea was just transaction tax. 1% on all transactions, and I talked it through to him. It's like, so if you're $1,000 a week, you're only paying one. If you took all of that money out, you'd pay 1% on that, and that's it. He goes, yep, and he goes, it would fund everything. Like, he'd done his numbers. Now I have no idea whether it would work or not, but not even spoken to, not even thought of. A new idea, a new initiative, ridiculous, would never happen. So like let's do like, I don't know, tax idol. Tax idol is where all the new tax ideas come up on stage and perform for us, and we go, hey, you're the winner this round, let's try you, whatever that is. Shamil, Jakub, come and participate in tax idol. Craig Rennie, come and participate in tax idol, and let's figure out a better way to do this.
Because the alternative is, instead of the tax experts, we bring out the wealthy people, and their idea is put money in the bucket unless we feed you into a guillotine. Historically,
we're going to move on to the last part of the show, which I think you'll enjoy it, but the bit that we've been kind of saving up to have a look at. Brian would get arrested with only Martyrum, says Stuart about Brian Tamaki. Jeremy has a late fee. Mike spoke to a lady today. She asked me if I thought privatizing healthcare would make it better. This is how uneducated people are about topics. I explained to her why it wouldn't. Hope she listened. Yeah. I mean, I'd have to go and find that research, but there's some recent research that goes to show public healthcare all over the world is better than private healthcare in America. And one of the reasons is you spend all the money on the medicine. You don't have to have that profit margin at the top. And it works better. Why have all their public healthcare systems for Western countries around the world get better results, longer lifespans, but safer people, better birth results, etc., than America does if their system supposedly works? It's ridiculous.
The UK's NHS was held up as the gold standard of public health care for decades.
The Tories got into it.
And then they started chipping it away. And then the shout out of this sounds familiar. Then the wait lists got longer. The care got poorer. I noticed in this last week how many stories there have been of poor health outcomes, of people having botched surgeries and all of that sort of stuff, all coming out of the New Zealand Herald. And it's all painting a picture that the public health service is fucked and is no good. And if you go in, you're going to come out with complications. So we might as well give it to the private sector. Which
you
is
break the system, and then once you've broken the system, you bring in the saviors, which are the privatized system. That's the plan. Citizen Gold says, just looking at Reddit conservative Kiwi, there are a very small number of upvotes. Reasonable people could flood that really easily. Arvid says, I think we know a charismatic we economist. Peter says, we've had trickle down for 40 years. It clearly doesn't work. Mike says, we could just make the rich pay the tax they owe instead of adding new taxes. 311 families, I think, is what you're referencing, says 391. But yeah, either or. 311 families owning more than, what is it, the bottom 50% of New Zealand? All right. We're going to keep trucking because we'll get to this last one because we've got a little bit of information to go through. Now, I know many of you would have seen this today.
Also be a little bit.
Oh, that's not what we're trying to do. Where is that sound coming from? It's coming from there. I'm pausing it. Let's start again. All right. Let's have a look at this. I know many of you guys will have seen this today. Now, word has it that this is a lawyer. I don't feel the need to out him. His name's around if you want to go check it out. But if he is indeed a lawyer, and if the word out there is what law firm he is from, they have on their front page, one of their specialities is repairing relationships. So this gentleman, if he is the person who people are claiming online, and it is the company he works for, runs a company that specializes in repairing relationships. This is Cambridge, I think, over the weekend, and he is having a, shall we say, respectful conversation with some pro-Palestinian.
The marketplace of ideas. And
marketplace of ideas. Yes.
Semite! Anti-Semite! 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 Come on! Are you going to do what you did to them on the 7th of October? Are you going to do to them? You anti-Semite racist pig! You anti-Semite racist!
I mean, I'm going to play it all, but I can't fathom it. I just can't fathom.
It's very scary.
I can't fathom it. And notice he's also talking to the people smaller than him. There's a big dude walking around behind him. He's not having a crack at him.
Pig. You anti-Semite racist pig! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
We don't know what happened on that day.
I hope you put some my
Now, let me say, there are some people online that have linked this guy to Hobbiton. He is not. I contacted them. He is no part of them. If you see that online, squash it. That's pure coincidence. He is no part of them. That has been a conversation I've seen online. Squash it immediately. People are saying he's a lawyer from that neck of the woods.
You are a racist anti-Semite. No one has that flag that isn't a racist Semite.
You got that, Chewie? No one who has that flag is not a racist Semite. So you haven't got it in the back. Lucky you don't have it in the background this week, Chewie, because that would be aimed at you, I guess. But you know,
There's not a different. Where's the Israel flag? Where's the Israel flag that stands for peace? Where's an Israel flag here? You are an anti-Semite. You are an anti-Semite. Look at your teeth.
that was, didn't you hear that? Look at your teeth. So. So a little bit more before we talk. This guy has form. Apparently, these are some environmental. I got told. Same t-shirt. Same t-shirt. He has form. This is apparently Palmerston North and some people who are like voicing their voicing their thoughts around environmental issues.
Your lies, your propaganda.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey?
You put that up on
You're a
fucking
liar.
video, mate, we'll sue the
You've
fuck
got
out
a
of you.
mental illness. Get some help.
And I did think for a minute maybe it was this guy, but it's not this guy. But I think it's quite funny to show you that these people sort of have a look. Remember this guy? I want to shake your hand. Looks a bit like him.
I'm going to shake your hand. I'm going to shake your hand. Shake your hand. I'm going to shake your hand. I want to shake his hand. I want to shake his hand. I want to shake his hand.
It's not him. That's me being silly, but that's kind of funny. So here you go. Here's a freeze frame of the guy talking about Israel being the flag of peace. That's that face there, Chewie. You're saying I've got more, but you go, jump in.
Yeah, look, I honestly don't know how you combat this. And this was me in that position. I don't as much as I've got facts and figures and historical context and all of this other thing. You're not going to have a fair conversation. This isn't an exchange of ideas in the marketplace and blah, blah, blah. It's not. This is an unhinged boomer that is just going to shout and recite the same thing again until you give up. So just don't fucking give him anything. Like, there were some attempts to do that, but it's so confronting. You can't think of the right thing to do that. Well, that's bearing down on you. All you can be sure of is that you're on the right side of history.
Yeah. And look, as I said, he's been outed as a lawyer. What I don't quite get is this man, whoever this man is, he is one of the dumbest men I have seen for a long time. Because what did he think was going to happen with this? If he is a lawyer, I mean, you need an amount of smarts to be a lawyer, right? To not be able to stop yourself from going, I want to scream at those people, but look, they'll record it. It'll go to social media. It'll get back to my other partners. I don't know how it would look. There are people coming out today who have said they were either he was their client or they were his client, or whichever it was, and sharing some things about him. But here's what I want to now do as well, Chewie. So I put this up with my tongue in my cheek because this is the peaceful face of that side of the argument, To which Juliet Moses, I don't follow her, nothing like that, but she slithered her way into my feed today and started bringing up the peaceful chanting for Intifada and the destruction of Israel as peaceful side of the argument, Okay, so let's just go through some of this. So my response to her is, what's your response when Netanyahu says Israel must fully control, quote, from the Jordan West, the Jordan being the river and the West being the sea? She goes on to say, I don't agree with him and I don't go around chanting it. To which I says, so when you're outraged with Netanyahu for saying it equals your outrage from supporters of Palestine being bombed by Israel saying it, then we can have a constructed conversation about it. Until then, jog on. There are people, though, that were very much like this guy is speaking for us. 100% we are with him. Whoever this is, Mark Hubbard says, yes, we are with him. Really interesting.
I love that they always have to say that they're a majority. I speak for the majority of New Zealanders. Prove it. Show me.
I don't think that's the case as well. So then I don't normally engage on Twitter or respond to people on Twitter, but I'm interested that Juliet Moses popped up into my feed today saying Palestinian supporters for saying from the river to the sea, equating to people wanting the destruction of Israel. I asked her how, if that is yada, yada, yada. I talked about Netanyahu. Her response was to do the same thing again. So let's post it. So which I reposted the outrage between the two. To which she came back and saying, my clever comment, I'll keep repeating my play. So then I just said, do you denounce the war crimes committed by Israel? All of a sudden, the conversation slowed down to a crawl. Didn't disappear, slowed down to a crawl. And you get morons like this guy, you first, Pat. You first, Pat. I mean, what do you think? You first. I know purposely, everyone knows my views. All you got to do is watch 10 minutes of the show, us talking about Gaza. You know the views that we have about the War Crimes and Terrorist Act on October the 7th, and that Hamas should release the hostages immediately. That doesn't mean that we can't also say Israel are committing war crimes by bombing civilians and forcing them to move, along with all the other things as well. And then Juliet disappeared, right? So I've said, and I said here again because I hadn't said it yet, yes, Hamas committed active crime, Juliet comes back, unlike you, I have a job, I was in a meeting. Funny how she was in a meeting exactly when I asked her about war crimes, and at a time period which would have been strange to start a meeting, but fair enough. To which she said that she has said in one of those other messages that she denounces any countries, including Israel, committing war crimes. But that's not really the answer to the question.
That's on her timeline though, right?
Because what I want to say is, if Israel, and so I asked her again, is Israel committing war crimes in this conflict? Because you can say, if Israel committed war crimes, of course, I denounce them. Okay, so is Israel committing war crimes in this conflict? And then it went silent. And it went silent until about 10 minutes ago, ironically, where Juliet Moses didn't answer that question. There are also 49 hostages still being held by Hamas, and evidently many Gazans are blaming Hamas for the resumption of fighting and the carnage. And I've got no problems agreeing with that. I'm sure the people of Gaza are hating what Hamas is doing. However, last thing, Chewie, I responded to that whilst we're on the show. Hamas should return the hostage immediately. Juliet, is Israel committing war crimes in this current conflict? If so, do you denounce them? Nothing. And when you weren't here, we were talking to Michel Mulipola. He was talking about when you get destiny off their message, they fall over. Juliet hasn't. She's off her message.
No, the only thing that they have left is the hostages. Remember, at the start of this, it was the fact that Hamas came and chopped the heads off babies, something that was found to be not true.
Yeah,
that they massacred all of these people at the music festival when a big chunk of them were gunned down by Israeli helicopters. So that wasn't true either. They talk about these 59 hostages. How many of them have been bombed by Israel? And this systematic carpet bombing in sections of the Gaza Strip. Why is it that Hamas have always said how they were going to release the hostages, and Israel said no, that we're not going to do that way? How many hostages does Israel have?
Yeah.
How many Palestinians are in their prisons?
Have you heard this? How many people have Israel used as human shields, walking into buildings with Palestinians in front of them, sending kids into the tunnels to see if they're bombed or not? Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. Imagine that I'm talking to Juliet Moses, right? Or any Zionist. And I go, hey, Juliet, did Hamas commit acts of terror and war crimes on October the 7th? That person would go, yes. I would go, yes. Hey, Juliet, should they return the hostages straight away? Juliet would go, yes. I would go, yes. Last question. So we agree so far, yeah? Last question. Hey, Juliet, is Israel committing war crimes in this conflict? Well, I'll be fair and say no answer. I would say yes. That's the point of disagreement. That's where the conversation needs to go. Except what they do is they think that they can back people into a corner. And I've had anti-Semitic a couple of times, not from her, but from her other people. But what they don't get is that the point is with me, I'm not saying any of you have to agree with me. You might be more rabid than me. I'm pretty rabid, but you might be more rabid. But the point of disagreement in this conversation generally is Israel is committing war crimes. You guys tend to disagree with that. So that's the actual, the other conversations, we'll put those to bed. Agreed, done, agreed. Now, let's talk about Israel carpet bombing, as you said, Chewie, Gaza, killing tens of thousands of civilians. Because what they'll say is, well, that's Hamas's fault. No. There's not like a caveat in the war crimes that goes, you can't bomb hospitals unless they're hiding in there. Even if they are hiding in there, you can't bomb hospitals. There's not a caveat. There's not a little asterisk at the bottom. You go to the bottom page and it says, unless they're hiding in there. You can't blow up civilian buildings. There's not a little asterisk, and down the bottom it says, unless there's tunnels underneath them that you believe to be where the enemy is. No, you can't bomb them. There's no caveats in war crime. It either is or it isn't. This is our point of disagreement. This is the only conversation we're having, because I agree on those other things.
If we had Juliet on the show, and we have done, unfortunately, had her on the show, and we got educated.
No, it was a completely different subject. That had nothing to do with Israel and Gaza and stuff.
It was, but we still got educated about why she's probably not the best person to talk to, because her organization is a Zionist organization. It doesn't represent all Jews. It represents the Israeli regime. Is Hamas in the West Bank? Is that why they're not? They're not. They're a Gazan organization.
Right. Yes, gotcha. So they're the government of Gaza, so called.
Yeah. So what did the West Bank have to do with October 7th? Is that why there's a huge military crackdown in that area as well? No, it's not. It's land. It is ethnically cleansing the land for more Jewish settlement. Is Hamas in South Lebanon? No. What military objective is there for stealing livestock and cutting down olive trees and poisoning wells? War crimes. They're all war crimes. Yeah, again, they bombed Syria. They bombed all of their neighbors for decades, and yet we're supposed to hold them up because they're our side to be the stable only democracy in the Middle East.
I think as well, like we always talk about how being tribal doesn't necessarily help the conversation. So let's just forget pro-Palestinian, pro-Israel, pro-Hamas, pro-IDF. Let's just look at the facts and decide who's wearing the black hat here, who are the bad guys, and who are the good guys. The problem is zealots can't do that, right? I think we are looking at what's happening with the facts, because we are saying October the 7th was, I don't know if it was technically a war crime, because would they be considered a country offensive, but it was certainly an act of terrorism or a war crime. I'm happy to accept whatever term you want to use. No problems, right? I don't know. Well, I guess I do know, but I'm interested how anyone, this is why people get knocked off, like Juliet's been knocked off her talking points, because she can't admit that right now, as we speak, Israel are committing war crimes. Because once you admit that, you lose the moral high ground. Once you lose the moral high ground, you're in the wrong. Once you're in the wrong, the actions your government is taking, or certainly the government you're supporting from afar, are wrong. That means you are the bad guy in this situation. You are the ones who are trying to ethnically cleanse the area. And so you just can't. And at no point in this conversation with her on Twitter over this afternoon has she answered that question. Are Israel committing war crimes in this current conflict? Committing. Not committed in the 1970s, not in the 1990s. If they do it in the future, I'll denounce them like now. in this conflict now are they committing them? Because as soon as you say yes, and you're a supporter of Israel, you have to then answer the question, why are you supporting the war criminals? Why are you supporting the ones that in the 1930s and 40s were the ones that would have been doing this kind of stuff to your people? Why? How can you be? Let's take the labels off. Israeli, Jew, Zionist, Christian, Catholic, New Zealander, people. Let's just look at this from a human point of view. There's some bad shit going on. This group called Hamas, it's doing some bad shit. This group called Israel, that's their title, they're doing some bad shit. And the people who are suffering most are these people called Palestinians. Just doesn't seem that, I mean, obviously it's difficult or they would have solved it, but the truth of it doesn't seem that difficult. And as soon as someone ties themselves in knots to either defend by attacking, you're an anti-Semite, or to deflect and do a whataboutism, that you then answer, yes, hostages should be released. Now let's get back to that point. You know.
Yeah, the whole anti-Semite thing, just as a semantics point of view, pisses me off as well. Palestinians are a Semitic race.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. Semite doesn't mean Jew. It's just so dumb. But yes, we should be in a place to go. This, I literally don't care that Hamas kicked off this whole thing, because it like this, not the whole thing, because obviously it's been going on for decades, but this current iteration, like it's irrelevant. It's such a bullshit question that they will drop on you, like, oh, so you're defending Hamas? No, I'm defending the innocent civilians. The overwhelming majority of the Gaza population is children. I'm talking about them. I'm talking about families that have had 30 members plus of the family line wiped out. It is a genocide. But the whole thing is, you can't look at October 7th and what happened, and then everything after and go, that is a fair and reasonable reaction. It's well past that. And there is nobody that has stood up to the plate and pulled on Israel's chain and said enough. And it's not going to happen now with the current regime in the US. There is nobody coming to help the Gazans, and that is a stain on whenever someone mentions the international rules-based order, that dies with this.
Yeah. Look, just to finish, and I probably should wrap up the way we began it. Juliet Moses is currently talking to me on Twitter as we speak. Israel may have committed war crimes, and if so, yes, of course they should be denounced. As I said many hours ago,
Can't even say it.
All war crimes, yes, which I've said, so which I've already responded. Israel may have committed what crimes? Juliet, you can read. Have they or have they not? Have they?
You can just
or
pick
have
one,
they not?
Juliet. Just pick one. What about the systemic targeting of journalists and aid workers? What about the siege tactics of choking off food and medicine? How many UN workers have been killed in this? How many children have been shot at, and then their rescue, aid workers and medics have also been shot at?
Yeah.
There are so many war crimes. You could just pick up the list of here are the definitions of war crimes, throw a dart at the list, and you will hit something that Israel has done, and has done in the last 8 months.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. Juliet, if you're listening, and I'm sure you're not, but maybe you are.
No, she's on. No. She's on Twitter right now. She's literally on Twitter right now. So Juliet probably is watching.
I don't know how you can justify this. I can see that you're taking a long time to come back and to try and form an argument. Just admit it. Just admit it. What happened on October 7th is monstrous, and I can understand rage and anger. but it has gone so the toll that this has had on overwhelmingly innocent people, you cannot say that that's fair and reasonable. That's like someone pushed over your kid at kindergarten, so you went down their entire family line. You punished the perpetrator, you burned down their mum's house, their grandparents' house, you got them sacked from their job, you ran them over in the street with your car. Like, it's not reasonable. None of it is.
I don't think we need to make examples, like, because to be honest, pushing your kid down at school is not quite the fair analogy. Killing the kid at school might be, but that's why I'm saying we don't need to do analogies. It's like, it's as simple as this. We haven't even conceded, because we're not supporters of Hamas. So we don't need to concede. We'll just say Hamas, terrorists, war crimes, October 7th, 100%. Hostages released immediately, 100%. We agree on both sides. We agree on those things. What we disagree on is the reaction of Israel and the bombardment of Israel. And for some reason, the incapability, if that's a word, of people who are the fervent supporters of Israel not being able to admit that just own it, that right now, maybe as we speak, certainly yesterday and probably tomorrow, there are war crimes being committed by your team. Own it first, and then we can have an honest conversation. Own it, and we'll have an honest conversation. Not owning it means we can't have an honest conversation. That's on you. Anyway, I've had enough of that. Let's wrap this up. As you'll be surprised, won't be surprised, there's no response yet. Let me just say super quick, because I've done merch a couple of times tonight. Everybody who has an order in right now who hasn't received an email, you would have received an email today. But Chewie, what I did was I packed up my car, I packed up all the packages, I went to South Dunedin, I got the packages out of the car, I had my head down, I walked to the door, I looked up, and then there was a sign on the door saying we're closed on the 24th for Otago anniversary. So everyone's packages who ordered, if you haven't received an email, are in the back of my car, and they'll be going to the to New Zealand Post tomorrow. So they'll be out to you tomorrow, probably to you by the end of the week. And that means anyone who orders from today onwards will be able to get onto yours super quick. bighnshop.nz. That's it for me. Chewie, have you got anything else? You came late. Anything you want to wrap with or anything? Or should we get the heck out of Dodge?
I could go on a rant for another 2 hours, but no, that's it. I was trying to pack a whole show's worth of rage into just a little bit. I'll just have to save it up.
Save it up for next time. All right, team. It's been a big one tonight.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can't afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a war path to run, linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A in a self and a higher in mind. All have a lean either this way or that, and will be analyzed by both Chewie and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's big hairy news.
I see the highlights about the sound almost going. The computer had a bit of a reset today. I know exactly what it is. I'll fix it for tomorrow night. That's it for me, Chewie. Is there anything else you want to throw out there for tonight?
Mickey 17 is a weird but good movie. Go and see it.
Cool, man. I will go and see it. You watch this now. I fixed it, and it won't go soft again. Night, team. We'll see you all tomorrow night for another edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo.
Cheers, fam.